This is the Dallas Morning News.
This episode is brought to you in partnership by Clay Cooley Automotive, family-owned, family-operated automotive company serving the local DFW Metroplex for over 22 years. Clay, thank you for all you're doing to make intersections possible. Headquartered in Dallas, Texas, Arcus Golf is a premier owner and operator of nearly 90 private, resort, and daily fee courses in the U.S., including Cowboys Golf Club, the world's first and only NFL-themed golf club, and 8 other courses right here in the DFW Metroplex. Arcus is an innovative industry leader providing unrivaled lifestyle amenities that complement exceptional golf offerings. To learn more, visit arcusgolf.com, and thank you to the Arcus team for all that you do to make intersections happen.
Chuck Anderson, fascinating guy, successful business person, real estate, mostly focusing on North Texas, but other places. I thought you saw an awful lot of him as a person, as well as him talking about how he became successful.
Yeah. The faith element, the family, his early days at Trammell Crow, Bandera Ventures with his 2 partners. We got a lot of things covered. We talked about deals in Preston Center and downtown Dallas. We covered the gamut here with Chuck.
With a sincerity level 10 plus.
Yeah, he knows what he believes and he shares it well here. Tune in. Welcome to Intersections, where we take a multi-generational look at the critical issues facing America. Tom, introduce our guest.
Chuck Anderson, great guy. And on top of that, phenomenal career in real estate with Trammell Crow initially, then went off with 2 other partners, founded Bandera, which is going to be a fun conversation. Yeah. So we'll get at it. Chuck, thanks for being with us.
Great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So you ended up from North Platte, Nebraska to Dallas.
Yep.
How did that happen?
So, interesting story. I mean, I played basketball in high school and got a full-ride scholarship at the University of Nebraska. The coach who recruited me there took a job at SMU. So that following spring, I drove down to Dallas with him because I'd never been to Dallas, I didn't know what SMU stood for. And all the way down, he said, you ought to come and you ought to transfer to SMU. And I'm like, I don't even know where it is. I haven't been there. And so he convinced me to do it. And I had to get a release from the University of Nebraska. And they wouldn't give me a release because I already signed my scholarship for the next year. And so my dad had to call the coach and say, look, we're going to get the release or he's going to start talking about what he saw that happened down there, both with the football program and the basketball program. And
hold it.
5 minutes later.
So what happened?
Yeah, so what'd you see?
I want to know what happened.
Let's just put it this way. You know, we would all get tickets to the football games every year, and some very generous alumni would buy the tickets from us for a little bit more than face value. So, and I guess they decided they didn't want that out. So
a natural to SMU.
Exactly.
It was perfect
for SMU.
Look, I tell people we invented NIL at SMU. I mean, we just dusted off the old playbook and we're back at it.
You're a pioneer.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got it all early. But, for me, coming to Dallas was the biggest life change I'd ever have, right? From a small town in Nebraska. I drove onto campus. I don't think I'd ever seen a Mercedes before or a Porsche before. And it was pretty much culture shock. But, I loved it. I knew I'd never go home. When it was the middle of October, my first year down there, I called home and it's snowing. I looked down, I got flip-flop shorts on and a T-shirt, and I'm going to the SMU pool, and I thought to myself, no, that's never going to happen again. And it didn't, much to my mom's chagrin. I never did go back and live there, but certainly visited.
So what was
a bunch.
it like growing up in North Platte?
Well, I mean, I think when you grow up in a small town like that, you don't know any better, right? So it was literally in the middle of nowhere. I mean, if you wanted to go to, we didn't get McDonald's until I was a senior in high school, and Walmart came, after I moved. And so if you want to do anything big, the big city, our big city we went to is typically Denver. My dad would do a day trip, 4 hours. He'd drive 4 hours, do what he needed to do in Denver and come back. But, for us, it was all about sports growing up, right? So University of Nebraska, obviously, great school, and everybody loved Nebraska. On a Saturday afternoon, the whole state shut down and listened to the Nebraska football games. If you went into a store and they didn't have the game on, the people would probably revolt and shut the store down. But it was a lot of fun. I had one brother. My dad was in the beer business. He was a Budweiser beer distributor. He was also a very bad alcoholic, which is a bad business to be in. So he sold the beer distributorship in '95 and opened 3 liquor stores, which was probably worse, right? So, my dad, he loved me and I knew he loved me, but he didn't know how to love me. His dad was an alcoholic as well. And for that reason, I haven't drank. I never have, and I never will. I was never going to put my family in a situation that my dad put us in.
Your brother
so,
too?
My brother drinks. thanks. But yeah, I mean, he was there. I felt bad for my brother because I was 4 years older. I left and went to college and escaped it, and he had to stay and do it. But ultimately, my dad did quit drinking after 4 or 5 trips to rehab. But like I said, I knew he loved me. He just didn't know how. Yeah. And so from sometimes I think you have people in your life that teach you what to do and what not to do. He told me, he taught me what not to do mostly. But again, other than that, I had my mom loved me. My mom really kind of raised the both of us more than my dad. But my dad taught me how to work hard as well. I mean, he'd get up when he wasn't drinking. He'd be up at 5 a.m. at the office and work all day and come home. And but all in all, I mean, it was a great growing up. I had a bunch of cousins there. I played football, basketball, everything you do, track, the whole 9 yards. And in 9th grade, when I weighed 140 pounds, I decided that getting out of football was probably a good idea, and I'd start focusing on basketball. And fortunately for me, basketball took me a long way. I got to travel a bunch with that, and got a full ride scholarship to Nebraska, and then a full ride to SMU.
Any other options in Nebraska, or was that?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, because I was from Nebraska and I was on the Super State All-Star team, that was probably the logical choice. But I could have gone to Creighton, I could have gone to Wyoming. Dartmouth recruited me a little bit. That was way too far away. But Nebraska was always the one where I was going to go. I mean, just because, it's the big state university, and we had several, boosters in North Platte who were, very encouraging to me and all that. So it was a great, I mean, I love University of Nebraska, but getting to SMU, I really kind of found my groove. I mean, it's such a great place.
How difficult was that? You just said, grew up in Nebraska. That was kind of, kind of the whole life at that point. Yeah. And then again, coach says, by the way, why don't you think about this new place I'm at?
Yeah, it's culture shock, right? I mean, you drive onto SMU's campus, and there's some cars I've never seen. Yeah. There's people that have credit cards, people that have lots of money, and I'm going, wow, this is really a different deal. And I drove up in my 1979 Oldsmobile Cutlass with T-tops, and that didn't really fit in either. But again, I think I adapted to it, right? And I would think most people who know me, even some that know me well, think, oh, well, he must have grown up in Highland Park, and because that's where I've lived kind of my whole adult life. Is once I got out of school, if you drew a 1.5 mile circle around SMU, I was kind of right within that tight circle. And my brother ultimately played basketball at the University of Denver, and he transferred and played football at SMU.
He did.
So his senior year was the year they killed the program.
So what did your parents think about this, and your teammates at Nebraska and that?
Well, it was interesting. I had a roommate that I was going to room with, my sophomore year, and it was middle of July when I really decided to do this. So I had to call him and say, hey, I'm not coming back. I guess somewhat disappointed. I assume they were disappointed. I was much more looking forward than looking back. And just, like I said, that experience I had at SMU was second to none. I would have worked at the beer distributorship, I'm guessing, all my life. I think my mom wanted me to go to be a lawyer. My mom and dad neither had college degrees. I don't think anybody really in my immediate family, grandparents and whatnot, had a college degree. So it was kind of drilled into my head from an early on time, you're going to get a college degree. And, I think my mom would really have loved if I got a higher degree. So, I did get an MBA at SMU. That was the beauty about SMU. When I transferred, I redshirted a year, and they paid for my MBA as I played basketball my last year.
And what'd you study?
A business.
Yeah,
I got an MBA. Yep. It was great, and met a lot of people, and still have tons of friends. Ray was there. Washburn was at school when I was there, so I remember him being around campus, and just a great place.
So where did the real estate bug hit you?
Well, so it's interesting. So when I came out of school, I wanted to be an investment banker because my wife's stepfather was an investment banker on Wall Street. So I kept saying I wanted to be an investment banker. Well, Jerry Orr did a clip on me, said, oh, he's not going to the NBA. He's getting his MBA or some silly deal. And this guy named Ron Beck, who was running Citicorp's office in Dallas, called the school and said, hey, I want to hire this guy. So, literally, I went and interviewed with him. He hired me, and he's another guy that, taught me some things good and bad. The one thing he taught me bad was when I first started, he goes, look, I'm the only person you will ever meet who can outspend an unlimited expense account. And after about a year of doing that, they decided they didn't want us around anymore. So, and at the same time, all my buddies were working in commercial real estate. It looked to me that they were working less hard and making a lot more money. So I said, well, I need to go get a piece of this. And then I went to work for Bill and Sherry Criswell at Criswell Development Company, who built Fountain Place. Yep. And then a year later, 186 people when I started. 1 year later, in August of 86, there were 26 of us left. The market crashed. Yep. And I took a job with Crow, which I had a job offer from Crow out of school before I took the Criswell job. So the third time was a charm, and stayed there 16 years and, had an awesome career. I loved it. I still love the Crow company.
And went into commercial brokerage initially with Crow?
Well, initially what I was a financial analyst. So I was on the finance side. Jim Hendricks hired me along with Barry Henry and Harlan Crow. And I did finance for a while. And one of my buddies, who's now now my business partner for 40 years prior, Blackwell, came to me early on. He said, look, you've got to get on the leasing side because revenue's where it's all at. You're just going to be a bean counter if you stay on the finance side. So you need to come lease space. So I leased space and just had great opportunities throughout. So I did that. Then I ran downtown. Then I ran the North Dallas office. And I ran the Central U.S. And when I finished up, I was running the development company for the western half of the U.S.
What were the projects that really stood out to you during that time? What were you excited about then?
Oh, for us, I started in the office group with Harlan, and Harlan has a really unique ability to create things. He's got such a great vision. So I was there when Trammell Crow Center went up, for Chase Tower that went up, San Jacinto Tower, all the stuff we did in Los Colinas. I think at one point we had 6 million square feet in downtown Dallas, which was amazing. So it was fun watching that go up. And then really, the leasing side was, it's how hard you're going to work, right? I tell young guys all the time, there's 3 things to be successful in our business: hard work, good interpersonal skills, and a brain. And the only one that's optional is the brain. If you work really hard and people like you, you're going to figure out a way to do well in business. And obviously, if you have the brain, it just exacerbates it and you can make a lot more money and be more successful. But I think what the Crow Company really taught me was, just hard work. You got to really go work hard. I used to love, we'd go to parties and Harlan would be there and there's 2 or 3 of us be talking to each other. He'd walk up and say, "Are you guys leasing space to each other? Go lease space." So it's like, in other words, don't talk to the guys you work with. Go talk to somebody that can make me some money, and which I always appreciated. He was always very, straightforward and told you exactly what he thought. But I loved working at the Crow Company. It was a huge opportunity for me. I made more money there than I ever thought I'd ever make. We took the company public in '97, which was just a phenomenal opportunity. And again, like I said, I wake up one day and I made a whole bunch of money, and I was like, wow, I never in my wildest dreams thought I could do something like that. And I think only in a place like Dallas can you do that. Dallas, I think, is one of the few communities throughout the country where you don't have to be from here to be successful here, and you don't have to go to SMU or Texas or TCU.
We've talked about that before.
It is a place where if you go and you work hard, you have high integrity and great character, then you can do. Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Look at Kyle. He started his company, and he barely got out of school, and it was really impressive. What he did. He came to me looking for a job, which I meet with between 100 and 200 young guys every year, and he was one of those guys. And we got to talking, and we tried to help him get a job. And finally, he just said, "I'll create my own job," and he did a great job with a company that ultimately probably wasn't as successful as he hoped it would be. Yeah. But I think he got his real estate MBA by work.
Yep. Yeah, I think unique is a word that is often overused. Yeah. But what you're talking about, Chuck, I think is right. Dallas really is maybe the only place where you can kind of walk in regardless of what you look like, where you come from. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I say I'm the poster child because I was elected mayor and I had only lived in Dallas for 3 years. Yeah. And that I can guarantee you, interacting with Bloomberg, et cetera, that happens no other place. During that time at Trammell Crow, it's a fascinating organization because the leadership changed during that period of time in some significant ways. Yeah. The company itself changed. It had gone from that period that you talked about, that 85, 86, with a lot of senior partners who had been ensconced. They left at that time. Then it kind of became a new leadership and then really evolved into almost more a corporate environment and going public. Talk about the change of culture during that period of time. Yeah. And was that one of the things that led you to kind of start looking at, maybe I want to do this on my own?
Not really. Look, when I first got there, it was led by some unbelievable personalities, right? Really big personalities. Harlan Crow, Barry Henry, this guy named Woodhouse up in Minnesota. There's a whole bunch of these guys all over the country. And when they left, all of a sudden, the guys like me who were in the trenches were left with all the problems. So we'd walk into a meeting and we'd get the heck beat out of us because somebody else defaulted on a loan. I'm just the guy in here trying to help you figure it out and get it fixed up. So from that perspective, it was phenomenal learning experience. Right. Mm-hmm. And then we did move into much more corporate operation because look, we couldn't develop. There were probably 5 or 6 years where we didn't develop a building. And so we had to be a service.
And by that, you're really talking the early days, it was really the partners that were putting their equity or at least their name on the paper, so to speak. That went away, and all of a sudden you had to be much more of the developer with outside financing.
Yeah, well, that and we were a management company, right? Because we didn't have the ability to go raise money because we had defaulted on a bunch of loans, and very rarely did we get a building built. But when we did, it was pretty successful. So that was the exciting part for me is I came to Trammell Crow Company to be a real estate developer and acquirer of real estate. And for the first, probably 4 or 5 years. I mean, we were just, cleaning out stalls and fixing problems that other people had created. And then we got it and created a big management company. But then, as you said, we turned into much more of a corporate structure, and that's when we decided to take the company public in '97. And that was an amazing time. I've got a picture of Mr. Crow and Harlan and a whole group of partners. We were all standing in front of the New York Stock Exchange the day we went public, and it was really a fun time. And again, got lifelong relationships. I mean, I love Harlan Crow. Harlan Crow taught me a lot of things, and has always been a great friend of mine. I mean, he's one of those guys where if I had a real problem, I'd call him, and I know he'd help me. And there's only, there's probably a handful of guys that I know that are like that, but he's certainly one of them. So I have a huge amount of respect for him and the company he's built and what he's done with Crow Holdings.
A lot of real estate companies have gone through that kind of scenario that you outlined. Not many of them actually survived.
Yeah.
Why did Trammell Crow survive from this kind of partner-centric, put the name on the line, we'll raise the money that way, we'll finance 110% of the project and then distribute 10% to the partners, that sort of thing. That evolution of being in trouble, maybe not being around, but then actually emerging to be one of the largest players in the nation.
Yeah. I mean, I think really what it was, you had really, really smart guys trying to figure this stuff out. And as we transitioned from a partnership to more of a corporation, I think we had tons of Harvard MBAs, right? I can't tell you the number of Harvard MBAs and Stanford MBAs and Chicago and Penn and everybody, but really, really smart guys.
And SMU MBA.
And SMU MBA, right? So, and I had my partner Prior Blackwell, who was a Texas Tech undergrad, right? And he was the youngest partner ever at the Trammell Crow Company. Wow. So again, it just tells you the entrepreneurial spirit that we had at Crow, right? If you work your tail off and you're really good, you're going to have success, whether you've got a Harvard degree or whether you have a Texas Tech undergrad degree. And Prior proved that, time and time again. So it was just been a fun ride. Did that
entrepreneurialism come from Trammell and it just stayed there?
I think so because again, look, I remember forget the title of the book, the 10 most, greatest places to work in America. Trammell Crow Company was one of them because you had guys that could go out and if you're in your early 20s and you work really hard in 3 or 4 years, you become a partner. All of a sudden on paper, you're a multimillionaire. Now, what happened in '86 when it crashed, I mean, all of a sudden you went from thinking you're worth $100 million to owing $50 million with the recourse debt. So certainly during that time frame, what that really taught us is not to sign recourse debt. Exactly. and we never have. I mean, it's just something that's kind of a blood oath we took. No matter how good we thought the deal was, they weren't going to sign recourse debt. And I think that served us pretty well, on a go-forward basis.
So 97, 98 are influential in your life for a lot of reasons. Trammell Crow goes public, and I think you actually walk into the Cooper Clinic to get a full body scan. Talk us through that day at the Cooper Clinic and ultimately the cancer diagnosis that followed.
Yeah. So, it was crazy. I mean, we took the company public in November. Like I said, I made more money than I ever thought possible. And then that was in November of '97. In January of '98, they sent us all out to do these executive physicals at the Cooper Clinic. And you go through if you guys have gone, you go through the whole deal. And at the end of the deal, I was talking to Ted Mitchell, who ran the Cooper Clinic at that time, was my doctor. And I said, Ted, a friend of mine's wife had passed away 2 weeks before that. I said, I'm really kind of freaked out about that. Is there any other test you can give me? He said, well, there's a scan upstairs, but you're way too young. You're way too healthy. You're 37 years old. Let's wait till you're 40. And I thought to myself, no, I don't want to wait. I want to go do it. And so we went up and did the scan. And after the scan, what they do is you sit down with the doctor and he's walking through, okay, lungs look good, heart's good. All of a sudden they kind of get to my right kidney and they stop and I see another doctor kind of walk up behind me and another one walk up behind me. And I'm going, wow, this doesn't sound good. And they saw a tumor on my right kidney. So I came back the next day. They injected iodine into my blood. It lit up like a Christmas tree and said, it's 99.9% chance you have renal cell carcinoma. And, I had 2 daughters who were 8 and 5. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm not going to see them graduate high school. I won't get to see them graduate college. I won't see them get married. All those kind of things kind of run through your mind as you get this cancer diagnosis. And I spent the next week doing brain scans and bone scans and just going, did it spread or not? And so then about a week later, I got what they called a surgical cure. So I've got a scar that goes across my midsection. It's about 18 inches. Today, it'd be 3 little dots. They go in and pull it out. But I mean, they cut me almost in half. I took out my right kidney and adrenal gland and called it a surgical cure. But the thing I think
and then no chemo, radiation.
Yeah, right? No chemo, no radiation. I was hugely blessed by that. But the thing that really came out of that for me was really an awareness of my faith. So
and I want to jump in there.
Yeah.
prior to the diagnosis, what would you say you believed in a certain sense? Like, what were you about outside of working at Trammell Crow? And
yeah, I mean, well, look, I mean, I went to church every Sunday. I taught Sunday school for my 8 and 5-year-old. I mean, I thought he was a really good person and a really good man. And so interesting. And when I was at home after the hospital, I was in the hospital 10 days. I think I came home for a couple of weeks. Skip Bryan, who was the pastor at Park Cities Pres, came to my house and he said, Chuck, if you died today, what would you tell him to let you get into heaven? And I said, Skip, I'm a really good guy. I'm a good person. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I love my wife. I don't cheat on her. And then I'm sure he talked to me about it, but I don't remember anything. So I had 5 friends of mine, all really guys who are kind of iconic in the real estate business. Mark Gibson, Jody Thornton, Mike Lafitte, Scott Dennis, my business partner, Tom Leitzer, invited me to a Bible study that they had invited me to 5 years before that. But I said, no, I go to church. I don't need a Bible study. So I go to this Bible study. A guy named John Mazel's leading the Bible study. He's founded East West Ministries. And so these guys kind of walk me through the gospel, which is simply put, it's, Romans 3:23 says, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Everybody's a sinner. Romans 6:23 says, the wages of sin is death, or eternal separation from God, or hell is what we deserve. But Romans 5:8 says, but God demonstrates his love for us in this, while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Mm-hmm. And then Romans 10:9 says that if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. And what I'd like to say is there's a period there, because there is a period in the Bible. There's not a comma that says, and be a good guy and go to church and all these things, right? So Ephesians 2:8-9 was kind of what hammered it home for me. It said, you have been saved by grace through faith, and it's not from yourselves, it's a gift of God, not by works, so that no man can boast. And I will tell you, at that time, which is probably sometime February of 98, the scales fell off my eyes like I've never experienced in my lifetime. So I actually was going to quit my job. I was going to go work for East West Ministries, and I go out to John Mazel and I say, John, I got a great idea. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to come work with you. And he laughed at me. He said, Chuck, that may be the stupidest thing I've ever heard. He said, you have got a platform in Dallas that I can't talk to half the people you talk to. You need to, use your platform for the gospel. And as I was doing that, my dad would call my wife and go, look, you got to tell Chuck to quit talking about Jesus at work. They're going to fire him. And so I was like, okay, well, if they fire me, they fire me. I didn't really care. But, that was a life changer for me, an eternal life change for me. And it was, I tell people all the time, it's the best thing. Cancer's the best thing that ever happened to me. And I wouldn't wish it on anybody unless that's what it takes to open their eyes to the truth of who Jesus is. So it's been great. So what I do now is I meet with between 100 and 200 young kids every year. They come and they want to talk about business, and I give them contacts, and I send them to 5 or you went through the drill, right? Oh, yeah. So send them to different people, have them talk to them, and
so
then
what kind of vehicle is this?
It's just, I don't know. It's what it's like. It's like the babies that get dropped off at the fire department. I have no idea how they get there. I mean, now it's a steady stream of people. Well, Kyle sent me a kid the other day. Yeah.
Somebody, kind of one-off type of
It's a one-off kind of deal. And then I'll go do Bible studies and tell people. But, we have a great conversation about business. And at the end, I say, okay, did you get everything you needed from me? Any other questions? No. We go, great. I have 2 questions for you. So where are you spiritually? And they give me an answer. And then it's like, okay, well, you die and go to heaven. What do you tell them that means? Same thing Skip asked me. And so we go through this, and I can walk them through the gospel and say, look, it's Jesus plus nothing equals everything. And what we want to do, especially in a place like Dallas, which is a can-do city, is we've got to do something, right? I mean, we just don't get to accept Christ and we're good to go. And the reality is, yes, you are. If you accept Jesus, you're good to go.
Yeah, I wonder how many, and I share a little bit of that kind of background and that sort of thing. How many people today go to churches and view Christianity as what I'll call a transactional
Absolutely.
religion? Yeah. E.g., if I get more pluses on the left side than I've got negatives, bad things I've done on the right side, then I'm okay. I just got to balance that out. Yeah. And as you say, that's not what the Bible says.
I mean, look, he doesn't grade on a curve. It's pass-fail class. It's real simple. And I just love talking to young guys about this, because I think I'm a big believer that in Dallas, Texas, on every Sunday, you got churches filled with people. Half the people don't get it. At least half the people don't get it. Because I was one of those guys for 37 years, went to church most weeks. And the answer I gave was the answer I get for most of these young kids. 75% of them is what the answer I get. And so
it's the good, bad.
Yeah, it's the good, bad. It's like I'm a really good person. So, I'll assert my good works will outweigh my bad ones. And then I always ask them, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that gets you into heaven? And most of them are like, 5, 6, 7. I said, well, I'm going to tell you 10 for 10. And then I walk them through those Bible verses and just say, you got to trust Christ as your Savior. And if you do, you're good. And if you don't, you're not. And it's simple. It's binary. It's what the Bible says. It's not what I say.
Right.
I mean, it's what the Bible says. Yeah. It's super straightforward. So thank you for letting me share that, because I love to share that. I mean, I just think that that's what God's put me on the earth to do.
Well, I think there's a challenge too in Christian churches across the nation, probably less so here, but in other churches, where they are trying to pick the pages of the Bible that they like, so to speak, as opposed to what the Bible says, and kind of come up with this religion that's pseudo-Christian.
Yeah, it's the lie of American Christianity.
It's not based on the Bible.
Yeah, gospel sometimes, but pick and choose other times.
Yeah,
it's a problem. Okay, so you walk through that surgical cure.
Yeah,
kind of world has changed.
Yeah,
talk us through. That's 98, and we're still 5 years from 2003 in Bandera.
Yeah.
So talk us through that 5-year period. What changed in your business world and kind of family world, and then what led you to getting off on the right foot with Bandera?
So I think after my kind of, I'll call my awakening, if you will, to Christianity. I mean, so I was much more bold about my faith, or really was bold about my faith. I wasn't bold at all before, right? At Crow, we always used to say we had the look in the mirror test, but now it wasn't really the look in the mirror test. It's like, you got to look at your Savior test, right? I mean, is what you're going to do ethical and of high character and integrity? We always used to say look in the mirror, but now it's really like, hey, you got to look in the mirror. Would you stand in front of Jesus and do this deal the way you're doing it? And so that changed. And then I talked to bunches of young people.
Did you not feel that was always the case?
No, I think I did. I think I had a good moral compass, but I think a lot of people think they have a good moral compass. I mean, and being a follower of Christ is much deeper than that, right? And it's not just having a lot of good rules that you follow. It's really having a person that you follow and a relationship you have. So I think it changed me that way for sure. And the people I talk to, I mean, again, sometimes I'll talk to guys and they'll give me the Heisman and go, hey, I don't want to talk about it. And I say, no problem. I mean, I'm not a salesman for Jesus. I'm just trying to speak truth and love to people. And if they want to hear it, they're going to hear it. If they don't want to hear it, the Holy Spirit won't convict them. So, but it was a great
analogy.
5 years.
You're just the witness. You're not the one necessarily that's bringing them.
Absolutely,
Christ does that.
Yeah, I mean, I've got these kids that are delivered on my doorstep, and I'm going to give them everything they want, and then all I ask for at the end is 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think some of them go, "Oh my gosh, can he really say that kind of stuff?" And yes, I can. It's my business. I'll do whatever I want to do. And then some of them hopefully walk out thinking, "Man, that guy's crazy," and then hopefully some of them are encouraged. But that's really my goal, is how can I encourage young guys to really follow someone that they may or may not know.
So is that what led you then, following on Kyle's questions, is, okay, clearly successful career at Trammell Crow.
Yeah.
One of the largest, best respected real estate firms in
the country.
Opened a lot of doors for you. I mean, you could do a lot of
question.
things just based on that kind of
that time.
card that you've got.
No question.
But then to say, okay, how did you then get to the point of two others are going to say, we're going to be off on our own, and now we're responsible for the payroll?
Yeah, it was a hard decision, but it was an easy decision. And most of it, I mean, my last 5 years at Crow, I flew 6 million miles on American Airlines. And so 4 or 5 days a week, I'd wake up and go, wait a minute, am I in Portland or San Francisco today? I'm supposed to be in one of those two cities. I can't remember where I'm at. And my daughters were, I think, 14 and 11 at the time. And I decided, and I talked to Pryor, and we just decided, hey, it's time for us to get off airplanes and spend more time with our family. And then Tom was the only smart one in the group. Tom waited till after he got his bonus in January. We resigned in August. So we always give Tom the moniker of the smartest guy. And so he waited and got his bonus. He joined us, and that's when we really started, was May of 23. And our whole goal was we wanted to be developers and acquirers of real estate. What we had gotten to at Crow, because we had been promoted so much, we were managing people who were managing people doing what we really loved to do. And the only deals we worked on were the ones that were so messed up and everybody was so mad, we'd have to go in and they'd have to beat the big guy, right? So we'd take the beating and move on. But it's just been an absolute blast. And, we started in a little 1,000 square foot space in Preston Center and Preston Commons. And in fact, we actually first started with Dawn Moore at Allegiance Title, gave us 2 offices in one of her title companies. And what happened inevitably is Pryor and I end up in each other's office every day because, as you know, at the Crow Company, we don't have offices. They never did. Now, I think they do today, which much to my chagrin, because I think it's a great way to communicate with young people. In our office we're in now, we have young guys, and we're right out in the open. If someone wants to walk up and and interrupt me or, have a conversation, we have the conversation. I think that was the beauty of it. Mr. Crow used to be surrounded by 3 secretaries. So Elsa, most importantly, right, you had to be quick enough to get by them to get to him, which was really hard to do. But we kind of carried over that, thought process with the Crow Company into Bandera. Hey, we want to be creators. We want to do really good stuff. And we partnered with Harlan on a few deals early on. And, I think when you first leave, you think, gosh, was it the Crow Company that made us successful or was it us that made us successful? And I think the reality is certainly a combination of the both. Like being at Crow allowed me to create relationships with people to do things that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to do. And so, I think one of the first deals we bought 2 office buildings in Las Colinas for $27. And nothing that we did 3 or 4 years later, we sold them for $120 a foot. Just the market kind of moved in the right direction. I think that was probably divine guidance. It certainly wasn't something we were really smart about thinking it was going to happen. And we built 10 Whataburgers early on. We were owning the real estate and leasing them back to guys. So we did all kinds of crazy stuff. We bought a bunch of little buildings in Preston Center, which have been super profitable for us. We put some banks in there and we had a lot of fun. We've done the largest build-a-suit ever in DFW, 1.6 million square foot building for M&M Mars that we competed against Hillwood and Crow and all these big guys. And
so, how did you win it?
Well, I mean,
going against those guys.
Well, I think the broker on the deal, I believe, was. I think it was Dan Cook. Tom had a great relationship with him, and Tom has built more industrial space, I think, than any single person in the Metroplex in the last 25, 30 years. So, I mean, he just did a great job, and we grinded it out, and we found a great capital partner with us that got aggressive on it. And fortunately for us, after we got it built, interest rates moved in the right direction for us, so we were able to sell it and make a bunch of money. Now, we'd have made a lot more money, really double, in fact, if we'd held it onto ourselves, but we didn't want to take that big a risk. But, that's a fun deal. Ross Tower downtown was a fun deal, kind of getting that done, building the Energy Transfer and Trevor Reese Jones headquarters in Preston Center. That was such a fun deal. We started that deal and we were quoting rents that people said, you're insane, you'll never get them. And we basically had the building fully leased within about 4 months after we started construction.
Amazing.
And we've been fortunate along the way. We've had great business partners, great capital partners, great banking partners. And, the great thing about our partnership, and I think people don't really understand what a partnership is not a piece of paper, right? Yep. And I think most young guys say, we're going to create a partnership and we've got this piece of paper. And what I tell them is that if I ever have to pull my partnership agreement out, it's over. We're done. I mean, we've always sat down and solved whatever problem by the 3 of us sitting down. And we have a rule that we only do a deal if all 3 of us agree. It's got to be unanimous. And if one guy wants to do it and the other 2 don't, or vice versa, that's their job to convince the guy to do it or the other 2 not to do it. And and then that's worked out really well. And I think it's saved us a couple times where one guy was just like, look, I don't have a good feeling about that. We're not good with it. We can't do that. And the other guys were mad for a little while and then, okay, we're going to go along because that's the deal, right? So, I mean, when I go out of town, they have my checkbook. They go out of town, I have their checkbook, and I'm confident that they would take a bullet for me and I would for them. And we've been through a lot of life with each other. Prior son passed away in 2008, which was horrible. He didn't come to the office for a year, but we didn't go, oh, well, he's not in the office this year, so he only gets 10% of the deal. It's like, hey, we're a third, and a third. We're shoulder to shoulder, all the way through this thing. And buried parents, and it's siblings. I mean, it's I don't know if we're better friends or better partners. And it's been a huge blessing, those guys in my life.
Maybe indistinguishable.
Yeah.
And we have a similar worldview too, right?
So how did the 3 of you come together? So all 3 of you are at Trammell Crow.
Yeah.
Successful careers, senior positions, that sort of thing. The company's just gone public, not too far removed from that. How did the 3 of you kind of initiate the conversations, both to say, I want to go out on my own, but I want it to be the 3 of us, as opposed to 4 or 2?
Yeah. So Tom and I went to graduate school together, even though he's 8 years older than me. We went to graduate school, 7 or 8 years older than me. We went to graduate school at SMU. Okay. And so I've known Tom since 1984. I met Pryor when I was interviewing in 1986. And we just became fast friends, the 3 of us. Tom was working in the industrial side, and Pryor and I were working for Harlan. Tom was working for Mark Myers. And it was really we just hit it off early on, and we did things together with our families all the time. And then when it was really Pryor and I decided to leave first, we called Tom and said, "Hey, Tom, we're going to leave." And he goes, "What are you doing? You can't leave. I mean, we're in this together." And so we got to talking, and I think it took us a while to convince him because, and again, like I said, he was smart. He waited till March to get his bonus before he left. And we started the company in May. But I mean, I think it was I think we were pretty certain when we left that Tom would come with us as well. Tom is an unbelievable real estate developer, especially on the industrial side. He's actually building a gigantic data center now for us down in Lancaster, and
Skybox part of that one?
Yeah, Skybox. Yeah, we actually started Skybox with Rob Morris in 2014, and those guys wanted to go do a bunch of stuff around the country. We'd been on airplanes plenty. We didn't want to do airplanes anymore, so when they come back to Dallas, they typically partner with us, and they have on this big deal down in Lancaster.
Let's talk about some of the deals.
Sure, let's do it. Where do you want to start?
Ross Tower.
Okay.
Again, big, 1.3 million square feet, plus or minus.
Yeah.
So 3 guys, 3 partners.
Yeah.
Not bringing the equity of a project like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how do 3 guys, great background, pull together a deal like that, given the hundreds of millions of dollars of financing that come, as well as the contacts, as well as all the issues that come with it, leasing, managing, et cetera, those sorts of things?
Well, I mean, I think the first and foremost was Pryor and I really cut our teeth downtown, right? So we were very familiar with downtown. We competed with that building all the time. And so we knew it pretty intimately. And fortunately for us, the market was a little bit unsettled at that point in time when we bought it. So we were able to get it tied up. We had it tied up for several months, and we had to run around town and try to find equity. So we raised equity from a bunch of families here.
So how much equity, how much debt?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wish you hadn't asked me that. So I think it was probably about 40 million of equity, and probably debt-wise, it was probably closer to 80 million, maybe 90 million. And so we raised a bunch of it around town. We had an institution from Canada that put in a fair amount of money, and they raised some money. And
on the equity or the debt side?
On the equity side. And then the debt, I'm trying to think, we have a debt fund on there now. I think it was the same group that we bought it with. So, and then again, it was cranking along great until COVID happened. So we got to about 74% leased. I think we were headed on our way to 85% leased and probably an exit within a couple of years. And then COVID happened, the world shut down, right? So all of a sudden you've got a Starbucks downstairs where no one's coming to the office and the Starbucks can't make it. So we have to give them free rent and do something to kind of keep that going. And then, we had one of our biggest tenants, Willis Towers Watson. Those guys just have never really come back to the office, and they've got 4 floors. So, I mean, it's really hard right now. Downtown's really tough. I really hope that the city can figure out a way to keep AT&T. I think that's will be a big nail in the coffin of downtown if we can't keep AT&T. I think Comerica is probably going to move out of downtown.
After the acquisition.
Sean Todd's done some great stuff down there, converting, office buildings. And it's just really hard right now to do business in downtown. And
so what should the city, what should the community do
that's
in downtown?
I think that's a $64,000 question. I think, I heard Ray talk about the Mavericks. I think that would be, we got to figure out a way to keep them. The fact that we let, the Cowboys get away, all those many years ago, it's just unbelievably just a tragedy, I think, that happened. That would have, if you look at what's happened to Denver and with their stadiums downtown, what it's done for them and other cities.
Houston.
So, yeah, Houston. It's just, that was just a huge whiff on the city of Dallas's part. So I hope we don't do the same thing with the Mavericks. I hope we figure out a way to keep them downtown, and that'll create a base and entertainment district. But I think the leadership during COVID was not great. I think the leadership we have in place now is really good. So hopefully we can figure out a way. Hopefully it's not too late to keep AT&T, and hopefully it's not too late to get the Mavericks to stay downtown. And then
so what would you tell somebody that says, "Hey, I'm looking at investment, Chuck, in downtown"? What would you tell them?
Well, I think right now, I think it'd be, I'd sit and wait, right? I'd wait and see what happens to the Mavericks. I'd wait and see what happens to AT&T. I'd wait and see what happens to Comerica, because if 2 of those 3 don't happen, then I think it's a really big problem. I think you're stuck with a lot of empty buildings down there that are going to go back and be empty for a long period of time.
Are we any different than any other place, though? I look at the numbers. In New York, I look at them in Chicago, then you look at the Denvers and all places else. It doesn't look like our numbers are any worse than anybody else. They're not very good.
Yeah, they're not very good. And that's the problem. I think downtown's a really, really hard place to do business right now. And I don't think I could convince anybody to go down and spend a whole bunch of money downtown. I've told people there's some buildings downtown, if somebody said, "I'll give it to you for free," I'm not sure I would take it, because free isn't free enough. Free needs to be free, plus I'll give you $20 million to kind of start the rehab on the thing. And even then, I don't know if it works. So we've got to have some big anchors in downtown commit and say, "Hey, I'm staying downtown downtown. AT&T needs to say, hey, we're coming downtown. We're going to stay. Comerica, I would love to see them stay. I'm not convinced that they will now that Fifth Third is bottom.
Yeah.
And then if we can get the Mavericks, I mean, I think that's the crown jewel, right? Because if you think about it, they'll have 200, 250 events, a year in there, and you're just getting people down there.
Yeah.
And then if you live down there, you can walk to a game, which is unbelievable.
So in these central business districts, is it office to multifamily conversion? Is it office to hospitality conversion? I mean, what sparks it for you? Like, do you think that works?
Well, certainly that works for some buildings, but you can't convert every office building downtown to multifamily and hotels, right? I mean, you can do it for 3 or 4, which we've already had done, and they've really worked pretty well. But then you've got some buildings that probably need to be knocked down or do something else. I mean, I know there's big plans for what's Bank of America Tower now.
Yeah, huge city investment.
I'm not convinced that works. I mean, I hope it does, but I'm not convinced that it does. I mean, it's a huge building with gigantic floor plates that don't work for today's tenants. And putting multifamily in there, I think is going to be problematic. But I mean, Mike Avalon, who I think's chasing that thing down, I mean, he's smart. He's figured out some really hard stuff before. So I'm cheering him on, but I'm not sure I would go shoulder to shoulder with him, trying to get that thing done.
Yeah, I think the two things that help us a little bit, maybe a lot. One, there's a lot of investment that's going to go downtown.
Yeah.
You've got north of $10 billion plus or minus that's going to go down there.
Yeah.
So that
Dallas
gives a lot of degrees of freedom to do things if it's done right.
Right.
So that's
Right.
it. And then second, I think the other piece that helps is we're in a region that is, I argue, has really become the center of the U.S.
Absolutely.
economy.
Completely
And
agree.
you don't have any great cities across the world, much less the nation, that don't have a good core downtown.
Yeah.
So I hope people understand that and push hard to make sure that we've got that revitalized core of both the uptown and downtown coming together.
Yeah, man, like you, I think it's imperative. And I do believe that, if I'm a young guy or a young girl and I want a job, this is the only place in America I'd want to be for the next 15 or 20 years. I mean, it's got nothing but huge opportunities going forward. Yeah. I'm super excited. I wish I was, 32 again, where I could go and, kind of do it all over again. I don't think I'd change anything, but I think the opportunities are going to be even greater for the guys that are going from now to 15 years than when I first started in my first 15 years. We did a great job of overbuilding the market several different times, and that's what happens when you give developers money they're going to build. And I think some of that's been contained. I think there's a lot of worry now with the data centers that's going to get overbuilt.
But on that point just a moment ago, Chuck, do you think we've insulated ourselves in the sense that a lot of that kind of overbuilding was a lot of free money?
Oh, yeah.
Now you start doing a project.
Cost money.
The equity has got to be much more substantial than it used to be. As I kiddingly said, but I don't think it was. It wasn't
much of a kid. Yeah.
We'll finance 110% of it with no equity in it.
Yeah.
Now those deals just don't happen.
Yeah. Now you're going to put
so
in.
Maybe we've insulated ourselves.
I think we have to a certain extent. You're going to put 50% equity in a spec office still to get it done, if you can get it done.
Yeah.
I mean, in certain markets you can. Preston Center, you probably can. The Knox area, you can get done. Uptown, you can probably get it done. Probably in Legacy, you can get it done. But you couldn't go do a spec deal in Richardson and get it done unless it was fully leased. Or along Central Expressway, you couldn't do it because the rents just don't support it. So, the one thing I've really
do you think this bifurcation though of kind of it seems like here, but other places too, AA plus is doing really well.
Yeah.
Those high rents that you'd think. Be a sensitive. They seem to be doing real well. But you get to A minus and below, they're the ones that are seems like they're taking in a lot of air.
100%. It's the have and have-nots, right? So the haves, Knox Henderson area, the new deal in Preston Center, these rents are going to be between $80 and $90 a foot triple net, right? But you can go to Richardson and do a deal for $20 full service.
Yeah,
so
15 years ago, 25 used to be high.
Yeah. I mean, it's
insane.
If you would have taken my 30-year-old self and said, hey, we're going to do deals at $90 triple net. We didn't even do triple net deals, and the market's changed in the last 10 years. If you'd have told me we're going to do 4 or 5x what we used to do, it's like there's no way. That can't happen. But it's happened.
And talk us through the deal you did at 8343 and 8333 in Preston Center, kind of during COVID, how all that came together too. Because I think it's a good representation of where rents were and where they've gone.
Yeah, that was a scary deal. So we put these deals under contract. COVID happens. We ended up closing in April of 20. We got a slight discount. I don't know if it's big enough. We'll know when we sell them. But to Kyle's point, the rents have gone crazy. When we bought the buildings, we were doing deals in the say $25 a foot triple net range. The last deal we had a meeting this morning is $52 a foot triple net. So doubled in a period of about 5 years. And I think it's people really want to be in Preston Center, right? It's walkable. It has restaurants. You can go to, 30 different restaurants. You can go to every bank in America is probably there. But it's just a great place, and it's close to home. And you got great east-west on Northwest Highway and north-south on the tollway. So that, you look at Knox District, the same thing. I mean, those guys are getting huge rents. Uptown's getting huge rents. And the thing that always, the thesis for us on Ross Tower was that, hey, we got this great building. It's granite building, probably would cost $8,000 or $9,000 or $1,000 a foot to reproduce today. Yeah. And, across Woodall Rogers, they're getting $60 a foot triple net, and we're struggling to get $25 a triple net. So, I think the conclusion that we've almost come to is that 25 and 60 are the same number if you really want to attract tenants. Because if you really want to attract really more employees. If you want to attract employees, you got to have a great building and a great location. And downtown's just not considered that great location anymore. And people want new and shiny, and it's Dallas, right? So we're glitz, glamour. We're the Dallas Cowboys, and it's got to be brand new. And if it's brand new, people will pay a big price for it. But if it's almost or near new, or it's an A- building or B building, you may not get at least. It's crazy what's going on.
It is.
You've gone 30 plus years in the business. You just machine gunned a lot of different deals.
Yeah.
Which ones in all of those years do you look back and maybe take special pride or satisfaction in that says, hey, we really did something special there, or we kind of pulled off something that nobody else did? Any deals stand out in your mind?
I think there was a couple of them. One would be the M&M Mars deal, the big build-to-suit, because we were competing against the Goliath, right? Trammell Crow Company, Pro Company, Hillwood. It was the little guy won. David won on that deal. So that was a fun one. And that one,
good size rock.
Yeah, exactly. I really attribute that to Tom, because Tom, the way he worked that and the way that he got it done was just incredible. We had a great partner. And then the other one is really the office building we did in Preston Center. That was a deal we did with Trevor Reese-Jones, Bill Vanderstratton, and his team, and chief partners, and we brought them the deal, and they said, "Well, okay, we'll do the land with you." And then we got excited about what we're developing. Then they were saying, "Well, maybe we'll do the building with you." And then they got more excited, so maybe we'll just move in there. Yeah. And so it just turned out to be a phenomenal deal. It was a deal literally when we started building, when we started quoting rents to some of the more seasoned brokers in town. They would go, "You guys have lost your mind. You will never in a million years get," I think it was $35 a foot triple net what we pro forma.
And what year was this?
That was 2016.
Okay.
Right around there. Okay. And, rents at the time were probably $30 gross. So, on a net to net basis, we were trying to get 35. Market was probably 18 or 20. Mm-hmm. And when Trevor stepped up and signed the lease, and then Kelsey Warren came along and they wanted to buy a piece of the building, and ultimately we let them do it. But it was just a great deal. And like I said, we were fully leased, and, we had the yield on cost on that deal was, almost 11%, which is unheard of in the real estate business. Today, you'd build that deal and you'd be lucky if you got an 8% yield on cost. But it was just perfect. Alignment was perfect, right? And everybody said, well, Preston Center's a small tenant market. You're never going to get a big tenant in there. And the reason there's no real big tenants here is because there's never been that much space available. Right. And I think this new deal that Ramrock is developing, right where the Target is, I think they'll land a couple big deals, and I think the rents will be north of $80 a foot. And I believe in the next 3 years, that building, if it has available space in 3 years from now, they'll eclipse $100 a square foot triple net.
But to really hit those home runs, don't you have to have kind of a change in all the ownership around Preston Center? It's a pretty antiquated ownership.
Yeah. Oh, it's all broken out.
Very diverse, broken, whatever word you want to use. What happens if that gets fixed?
Well, then I think the sky's the limit, right? So you've got that garage in the center of Preston Center that for the last 40 years, everybody said, we're going to get that thing developed. And I think
I had lots of briefings on that.
Yeah, my understanding is that there's like 37 owners around that deal. They all have a say, and it all has to be unanimous. Yep. So I'm convinced the only day where we're going to get something built there is when the garage falls down and hurts somebody or smashes a bunch of cars. Then maybe we'll get it rebuilt. It's just hard. It's hard to bring a consensus to people.
You don't have any dynamite in the back of your...
No, I don't. No, I don't. But Preston Center's been a fun little market for us. We own several small little buildings in there. Yeah. We'll buy, and every time we buy a building, we seem to be top of market. We're paying the most, and people are going, "What are you doing?" And then we turn around and we lease it for a big number, and then the next one comes up, we buy it and pay more than anybody else, and we get another rent that's really big. So, I think to your point, having the diverse ownership, if you have it more. If you'll take the stance of, hey, we paid this for it, we've got to get this kind of rent, and just ignore really almost what the market says, ultimately you're going to get it because we've built a really nice product and more so better than some of the older stuff that's been there.
So I want to do one thing. Sure. You've been around this world 30, 40 years. Mm-hmm. You've obviously seen market ups, downs, changes, et cetera. COVID obviously being probably the last biggest one.
Yeah.
The market's way different than it was 10 years ago, even to all the deals you just mentioned. What's your advice to the younger professional entering the real estate game now at a interest rate kind of market that's 6% plus, not the free money we were giving away right after GFC? Yeah. What's your advice to that person who's entering in and saying, "Hey, where are these deals? We can't seem to get anything to move."
Yeah. Well, keep just to put this in perspective, that was somebody that said 6% was astronomical.
I know. I hear you.
I don't think that's the entire career when you would say 6% was astronomical.
Well, let's put it this way. My first mortgage with a $150,000 house in University Park was 12 3/4. The interesting thing is my rent, my mortgage payment
he knew where I was
double that my kids was when they bought a house that cost 4 times as much, right? So I mean, it was free money. So I think that's a misnomer. I mean, we used to underwrite deals. We had to underwrite, debt's going to be at 8, 9, 10%, and if they didn't underwrite that, well, we didn't build it. And so I think the advice I'd give these young guys is get in, work, guys and girls, jump in, work really hard, create good interpersonal skills. And again, most of these guys that are getting our business are really sharp young guys. And if they work hard, they're going to be successful. And I think you have to take it the extra mile, right? I mean, it was always like I had this young kid met with me just the other day, and he was saying, "What should I do?" I said, "Well, do you cold call?" And he said, "What do you mean by cold call?" And I said, "You get out of your office, get in your car, drive to a building, go up to the top floor and knock on every door and see if somebody will let you in and talk to you." That's cold calling. Cold calling is not sending a bunch of emails out and calling a bunch of people, because it's easy to delete an email and it's easy not to answer the phone. But when you're standing in front of the person, it's really hard for them to say, "Get the heck out of my office," because you're standing right there. So, I mean, it's a lost art. And that's why when we are partners with HPI now, we own 40% of HPI Dallas, started by my brother in Austin. We opened the office 10 years ago here. We wanted to train our own leasing guys, and that's what we had at Crow, right? Yeah. Because the deal at Crow was Harlan be in there and go, "Look, your job is to make me a whole bunch of money, and after you make me a whole bunch of money, then I'm going to let you make some money." But in order to do that, you got to hold rents, you got to be firm, you got to do things that people aren't prepared to do. And if you think about it, most brokerage companies, their only job is to convince me, the building owner, to do something I shouldn't do to make it easier for them to make a commission, right? So, and that's why you got to really asset manage these things like crazy. You got to raise guys up, and for them to know that, hey, if you do a bad deal, your track to being a partner at Crow was dead. So if you want to partner within 3 or 4 years at Crow, you'd probably done something that made somebody mad, or you hadn't been as forthright, or held the rents like you should have, or not given free rent, and all those kind of things that were out there. And you just had to figure out a way to get a deal done above market. And if you did that, then you got an opportunity to participate. And that's really what we try to do with our younger guys, is instill in them. It's like, guys, our job is to make money with the building. It's not to the commissions are great. We'll make money off the commissions, but the real money is made when you have building ownership. And if you want to own buildings with us one day, you're going to figure out a way to make these deals really work by holding the rents up, not giving free rent, lower TI, all the things that are easy to do. It's easy for them to give my money away, but when it's my money, I don't want them to give my money away. And that's why when they bring something to me, I'll say, "Look, guys, we're not going to do it." And they go, "Wait a minute, it's just another month of free rent." I said, "Do you know how much that month of free rent is worth? It's worth $30,000. If you cap that at a 10 cap, that's $300,000. And if you cap it at a 5 cap, it's worth $600,000. So no, we're not going to do that. That's why. And I just think it's an education process.
Do you think, and maybe you go back to think of Chuck Anderson kind of walking into Trammell Crow and kind of starting these deals. Are the folks that you're bringing in now different, either in terms of work ethic, in terms of the way they're looking at career, in terms of the way they look at you as senior partners versus the way you looked, Harlan Berry and those folks?
Yeah, I mean, look, when I walked in Trammell Crow, I was in awe. Right? I mean, man, there's Harlan Crow. He's Trammell Crow's son. Then you see Trammell Crow and you get to meet him, and you see Barry Henry and Jim Hendricks and all these guys that you kind of looked up to, and like these guys were legends. So I don't know how they look at us other than we're old guys. And the thing that bothers me now is every meeting I sit in, I'm usually the oldest guy in the room. Thank you for being older than me today. I appreciate that. I think what I see in the young guys, there are some that are unbelievably driven. Most of them are not. I would say on a whole, that's where I always get back to the hard work, good interpersonal skills, and a brain.
Generational difference?
Yeah, I think there's a generational difference. I mean, the hard work, I think think about it. If you go to college, you go to school for 15 hours if you go to every class. You maybe study 5 hours a week, so that's 20 hours, right? So when we were starting out at Crow, we worked from 7 to 7 Monday through Friday and 7 to 12 on Saturdays. That was just what we did. And I guarantee in our office on a Saturday, there's nobody there. I used to tell guys at 2 in the afternoon, because Crow was open office with all the desks, if I could shoot a shotgun down there and hit you, you should probably be fired. Your job's not in here. Your job's out leasing space to people.
Yeah.
And I think so many people want to do it by phone or email or text message. And again, while that works in some respects,
social media
environment. I mean, like my kids text me. I said, "Look, call me." I mean, I want you to talk to me. I mean, and I think we've lost a generation on they don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to go meet with people. They don't know how to act around people. And there are guys that get it, and the people that get it, the guys and girls that get it, are going to do really, really well because the competition wants to be at Katy Trail Ice House at 3:30 on a Friday, where they're in the office at 5 o'clock on a Friday. Yeah. So how do you differentiate yourself? Go work hard, and everybody's and I say, look, I can't tell you if you're going to work hard or not. Only you can decide if you're going to work hard or not, but that is going to make you successful.
Okay. You went through a number of the deals that you remember, the good deals.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, think back on some of the bad deals and talk to us about those.
Darn it, I hope you wouldn't have asked.
Both in terms of the bad deals, but also how did that change the way that you did later on in your career?
Deals.
Yeah. So I will tell you, and one of the bad deals, and I've always used this as an example, is we invested in a golf magazine. Right. So I tell people I have an $83,000 golf shirt in my closet, and I keep it there to look at, to think of, invest in stuff that you know about, not in stuff you don't know about.
Magazine building.
I was a golf guy. I mean, I love to play golf and think, I do this golf connoisseur magazine, and I'm going to get a chance to go play all these great golf courses. And, about 4 months in, we lost all our money, and I've got a golf shirt that cost me $83,000. We did a couple of retail deals, one up in the Northeast in Cape Cod, right as COVID. Right before COVID happened. And so we lost a fair amount of money up there. The young guy that worked for us who helped us do those deals passed away in a car wreck. So it was super tragic. And the interest rates went up 13 times in 18 months. And, it was like trying to catch a falling knife, except the rates kept going up and we couldn't decide, are we going to lock it in? We're going to lock it in. And we never did. So I think our rates went from 2.75 to 8.5. Wow. And, we bought it at a 6 cap, and that doesn't work. So, we took a big hit on that. And that's one that I think had Jack been around, I think we probably would have been able to work through it and not lose as much money, but we still would have lost money. Ross Tower, I mean, I'm scared about that deal, right? I mean, if downtown doesn't turn around, we extended our debt once, and we've got another probably a little over a year left.
So for you and the partners, how much is at stake with that? If it goes bad, does that hurt?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, on the retail deal, it hurt multi-millions of dollars for each of us individually, because we had done a 1031 exchange. We made a great sale on a warehouse and exchanged it into that deal. And so to add insult to injury, not only did we lose all our money, we didn't get a tax write-off for losing money because it was all profit that we put in there. So, that was super painful. But, I mean, Don Williams said this best when we went through the first big crisis when I was there in the 80s. He said, look, we behaved our way into this. We have to behave our way out of this. And so I think what we tried to do as we're going through these deals is to behave in a way that would be honorable, that would be God-honoring. And so in one of the retail deals, we had I'm big on non-recourse, right, for a reason. So we had a non-recourse note. Well, we paid extra money to the bank that we didn't have to pay. Why? Because I didn't want to see the CEO of that bank walking down the street and me run to the other side of the street. I want to hold my head up and go, look, we're going to do the right thing even though we don't have to do the right thing. And I don't think a lot of people would do that, but I think we were convicted early on that we're going to do the right thing, which, I guess it leads you to believe a little bit, maybe we should have done recourse loans. We might have got more debt, but, just doing the right thing, I think, is what you got to do, especially when we're in a situation where there are really hard deals that come up, and they will. And we haven't had a lot of them. We've been very fortunate. We've made a ton of money on a lot of deals. We've lost money on, I don't know, probably 4 deals, 3 or 4 deals total in the last, 23 years for Bandera. And I've got great partners, and we've made a lot of money, we've lost a little money, and it kind of goes up and down. I tell people all the time, if I'd taken my money I got at Crow from the public offering, put it in stocks and bonds, I probably would be about the same, maybe even a little bit worse off. But I've had so much fun. The ride's been such an incredible ride with 2 guys that I love and a family that we've had the ability to do some really great things. And, I've got 5 grandkids now, and hopefully I get a chance to instill in them, the work ethic and the honorable and the character integrity that hopefully that I've had and Pryor's had and Tom's had.
One more question here.
Yeah.
Asked Jody this question when he was in this room. Who are the men that you look up to that are kind of in your peer group? Who are the men that you've obviously run with? Obviously, your two partners, that's an obvious answer. But outside of that, who are those men that you've looked up to?
Look at the guys that led me to Christ, right, with John Mazel. So John Mazel is my spiritual hero and my spiritual father. I mean, man, I love John. John's dying right now. He's got, pulmonary fibrosis. He should have died 2 years ago and he's still hanging around. Mm-hmm. So guys like Mark Gibson, Jody Thornton, Scott Dennis, Mike Lafitte, those guys we were all running together. And guys that have run huge businesses. And these guys are guys that I know a little bit like Harlan, that if I got in trouble, I'd call one of those guys and I know they'd come running and they'd bring the cavalry. So, I think that's what life is all about is doing the right thing, but creating relationships on a long-term basis where, I've read all kinds of studies, the more friends you have, the better off you're going to be and all those kind of things. I've been blessed to have great friends and great business partners.
Incredible.
So what's your outlook going forward in real estate markets? A lot of successes that you've had to this point. And interestingly enough, for a relatively small company, 62 million square feet, I'm not sure I say small on that. You're in industrial, you're in office, you talked about retail, so you kind of got the waterfront, so to speak. What's your outlook over the next 5 years for real estate?
Well, I think it's going to be phenomenal in Dallas, Texas. I want to be in Dallas, Texas. It's the only place I want to be, and so I think it's going to be great. I think for Bandera, I think we're going to work less and work less hard. We will do most of our new stuff, I think, through HPI. Mm-hmm. We've got a young guy named Hunter Lee who runs that. It's a great business leader, and they want to go do some things that we would have ordinarily done. I'm not going to sit in a construction trailer, for example, every week for 18 months like I've done in the past. So, I think the real estate market overall is going to be phenomenal. If it were me, I'd want to go do it again. I'm still going to be involved. I'm not going to go golf every day. I tried that for a couple months. I love golf, but I don't love it enough to do it all the time. And like I said, I got great partners, and these guys, we'll work together. And again, we travel a bunch in summertime. We're really not around that much, so we can't really be as active as we were. But I think we can be active in helping Hunter and his guys really grow that HPI business, both from an industrial standpoint and a office standpoint, probably not retail, but office and industrial, and some more data center stuff. I think we may do that. And then we've got an office in Fort Worth, led by Colt McCoy now. Yep. So he's an unbelievable relationship guy and loves Jesus and just a really hard worker. And he's created a great team over there. Now all I got to do is make money, right? So we got a great team. Now we got to get on the field and play a game.
Well, your business is dependent on a lot of things, but clearly the overall economic environment arguably is the most important one.
Yeah, for sure.
When you look at the shifts that are coming out of Washington Day and how that could impact investment, real estate markets, capital markets, those sorts of things, what's your reaction?
I think the biggest issue is really kind of from a capital market standpoint. People get scared when bad things happen, right? Or there's uncertainty with tariffs and things like that. So, but I think if I'm sitting in Dallas, Texas, I think that's the best spot I'm going to be in. And I think for the next 5 years, I think it's going to roll no matter what happens on the national economy. It may tamper our growth, but I think overall people want to be here. I'm on the board of a publicly traded company called Highwoods Properties, and we focus on the Southeast United States, through Texas. And it's amazing to us seeing these people kind of migrate to the Southeast into Texas and Tennessee and Florida and those kind of states. Yep, so again, I think it's a great outlook. Like I said, if I was young, I'd jump on this. I'd jump in my car from Nebraska, drive to Dallas right now, and I'd do it all over again because, like I said, the next 15 years are going to be better than the first 15 years I think that I had here, and they were great. I learned a bunch. Going through the hard times is probably the best learning experience I've ever been through. And when we were at Crow and everything was crashing around, and we had bankruptcy counsel on retainer, and it was like, gosh, are we going to make it or not? And I was young and dumb and naive. I didn't know any better. I'm just going to go work really hard and see if we can make something happen. And fortunately, we came out on the other side.
You got some scars on your back. What could go wrong?
Getting into some sort of, foreign conflict, I think could really go wrong. I think that would really affect the capital markets. If we can't get debt and equity, I think that we can't do anything, right? So you're kind of stymied. And I think the thing about, the debt right now, we're waiting for interest rates to go again. I think there's so much equity capital sitting on the sidelines right now. They are waiting for some good news. So one thing we do know that the guys that raise the funds on the equity side, they're not giving the money back. They're going to spend the money, right? But they've got to find a catalyst that says, okay, what's the catalyst going to be to make us, is it interest rates going down? Is it job growth going to happen? What's going to happen to make us go spend the money? And when it comes, it's going to come at a tidal wave, and a lot of it's going to come to Dallas, Texas.
That's great. That's great. Cool.
So what's left for you?
Wow. I don't know.
What do you, is there anything that you still, clearly have been very successful. You've talked about the friendships, all of those elements, kind of the non-financial, non-professional. What is it that you still want to accomplish?
Yeah. For me, I mean, it's really just about relationships, right? I meet with these young kids. That's where I get all my energy. I mean, I'm 25 to 30% of my time now, and probably going up, is spending with young guys and young guys and girls, trying to tell them about the real estate business, create, opportunities for them to meet other people, and then I get to share the gospel with them. So, I mean, for me, it's gospel centric, and the way I get to do that is through business. So I get to give them what they want, and then I get to do what I love and want to do, and hopefully make an impact on the younger generation. And like I said, I got great partners, I got great friends, and I'm going to work less and work less hard, but I don't think I'll ever retire. I mean, I don't think my wife would let me to begin with, but I love doing stuff like this. I mean, seeing you guys and seeing him thrive has been a really edifying for me. I mean, I knew him when he was, just this punk kid coming out of SMU trying to find a job, and he couldn't find one. And
that was yesterday?
Pretty close. Well, yeah. But then he created an opportunity really out of nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't think he knew really what he was doing for the first 2 or 3 years, right? And all of a sudden he learned, and he got his MBA.
Still does it.
Exactly.
Good guy.
Yeah.
Enormously successful.
Yeah.
Talked about the importance of faith. You need to spend more time with him. Chuck, thanks for being with us.
Thank you guys very much for having me. I appreciate it. Good to see you guys.
Thank you for watching today's episode. Again, today's episode is sponsored by Clay Cooley Automotive, a family-owned, family-operated automotive company serving the local DFW Metroplex for over 22 years.